It's interesting you bring that up, actually, because that's the Tesco sort of fog defense system. I was thinking about this a lot as I was doing the notes this morning, because to take you into the shoplifting bit, actually, because I've split things up into a couple of little chunks to try and condense this down. So one of the big use cases for AFR being pushed is shoplifting, and it's because as we've gone through the cost of living crisis, there has been a reported and alleged sort of uptick in shoplifting. Because automatic facial recognition, a lot of the way that they've sold it to people is that it's to prevent what they say, like risk of serious harm or serious crimes. Because shoplifting isn't generally considered to be a serious crime, the way that they've gone after it is to kind of stretch the term to fit the deployment they have in mind. And they're doing this through a thing called Project Pegasus, which is where a bunch of sort of major retailers, things like Aldi, Tesco, Marks and Spencer, things like that, Primark, they have part funded a police team of specialist officers and analysts to build a comprehensive, intelligent picture of the organized crime gangs that fuel many shoplifting incidents across the country. That's quoting from their website.
This is like real, like cartoonish evil shit to be like, the police have stood up Project Pegasus from a shadowy network of corporate funding. But the corporate funding is fucking Tesco.
Yeah.
It's a distinctly like British take on it.
Yeah. Know? Speaking of like cartoonish evil, what is buried in that, the press release announcing Project Pegasus was that among, they're talking about, organized crime gangs, but in that definition, what they include, and they say this in the press release, is local families and young people.
Well, I mean, if a family is a unit of organization, so if you've got more than one people in a family committing crime, that is organized crime. The 5 families, but they're just like 5 families.
Selling bacon out the back of a van.
Yeah,
it's the Blairite language of like community governance having slipped the leash and being like, well, we've got to put in some stuff about communities and local government in this press release and like hardworking families. So therefore, Project Pegasus will target local communities and hardworking families.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there are some press releases that are written with the hope that no one will ever read them. That they need to have been written.
This is why journalism is so important. Someone has to be paid to like read these things.
Yes. Pay me to read these press releases. It's vital.
It's an arms race between people who would rather not be writing this and people who would rather not be reading it.
So, right, I think this is one way to look at it, right? Which is, as you say, Becca, right? It's brought in under the background of austerity, but of, again, like to prop up the sort of repressive arm of the state in the face of austerity at the behest of fucking little, basically.
Yes, yeah.
But it's not just little, of course, because
I mean, Lidl's a sort of broad church. It contains a lot of political tentencies.
In the middle aisle, you could find anything in Lidl.
Yeah. You've got Aldi Nord and Aldi Sud.
Take my fucking punchline.
Oh, shit, sorry.
No.
The centrist aisle at Lidl.
You can find justification for anything in there. Changes every week.
This isn't just about, though, Project Pegasus. That's one facet of it. It's also about, I think, the police and crime commissioners in South Wales sort of getting their hands on a new toy, seeing a way to increase their power. And then I noticed you in your article that you've written about this, one of the notes is that there are some members of the Senate that are like, hey, why are we doing this? Under what justification? And they're broadly just getting shut down by being told, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, this actually, automated facial recognition is covered under any kind of existing sort of surveillance authorizations that the police have. We don't have to debate it.
Yeah, so we have one Senate member who, prior to becoming an elected politician, was doing sort of academic research in digital privacy and digital rights and things like that, who has tried to get it debated in the Senate because it hasn't been debated really at all in the UK. And basically what she's been told is this constant sort of thing that you get with the Welsh government where, like, on the one hand, they'll portray themselves as doing something, we're shielding you from austerity, we're doing this, we're doing that. But then when you try to scrutinize them about that thing, they then say, it's not a devolved matter, go to the UK government for your questions. It's not relevant to us here. And that's kind of what is being bumped up against. But yeah, the other thing is that you speak to anyone. Like for the piece that I did, I interviewed the outgoing police and crime commissioner for South Wales, an older gentleman. He used to be a cabinet member under Tony Blair's government, and he was also the former first minister here in Wales as well. He's kind of gone down the rankings, and depending on which way you want to look at it.
Wait, was this who was this? Alan Michael?
Alan Michaels, yes, yeah. So he is a huge proponent of facial recognition for exactly the reasons to do with austerity.
Wait. Are you saying that a former cabinet minister under Tony Blair is a huge proponent of something that will create a kind of permanent digital face print of every citizen in police computers?
Yeah, perhaps they could print it out onto some kind of card.
Yes.
Sorry, please go on.
Please stop, November. You're making me too horny. For ID cards, obviously.
Yes, where was I? Yes, so he is a huge proponent of this. I asked him about facial recognition, despite the fact that it's been rolled out so widely. It's sort of in use both across Wales, but also in London is the other big hub. They're sort of catching up at the Met Police now. But there's no specific legislation that tells police when they can use this tech, what reason they can use it for. There's no sort of like official accountability process. So I asked him about this, and his kind of blanket answer was no. He said to me there was no specific legislation brought in when police started using panda cars, which I was very confused about. And then when I asked him about it, he meant police cars, when police first started riding around in police cars. He said that was a huge change to the way police did things then, and they didn't require any new legislation. So I don't see why we need new legislation for this now.
Just rotating in my mind the Guardian article about how many people the police kill by accident in car chases.
Well, the police used to use panda cars, but they had to stop because it was impossible to produce new panda cars, so they wouldn't make.
Yeah, it's really sad.
But my favorite of the quotes from Alan Michael, though, is his argument as to why it is necessary to deploy live facial recognition at, and this is very specific, Beyonce or Harry Styles concerts.
Yes. So
that's very old person's idea of young people activities.
Well, it's quite simple. We're going to keep track of the straight boyfriends at Chapel Roan. It's most important we know what sectors of the crowd they're in, so we can keep track of whether they're harshing the vibe or not.
That's right. So, this is scarily close to the justification.
Riley, you're going on the fucking database.
Yeah. So the way I came to think of it when I was writing the piece was Schrödinger's nonce, and I apologize for that too. So,
well, there's the nonce, and there's like the young boy, and they're in a box, and there's like a glass wall between them.
We don't want that to be.
It might break or it might not.
Yeah, sorry, Becca, please go on.
Yeah. So the way police use facial recognition is on the one hand, they sell it as this will do all of the trivial stuff that will free up police to do the more important things like catching sexual predators and all the rest of it. But then they also say that AFR is a vital tool for catching sexual predators and stuff. In Wales, the main strategy with live facial recognition, that's when they have a live video feed of a crowd, and then the facial recognition algorithm matches people's faces in real time, and it allows police to go out and bother people in real time.
They've invented a new nonce detector. It's real.
Beep, beep, beep.
Well,
yeah, so the main strategy is to deploy this live facial recognition tech at big events. And when I was having this conversation with Alan Michael, the outgoing police commissioner, a specific example he brought up to me when I was asking about this strategy was at a Beyonce concert that had taken place a few years back. And what he said to me was, he said, number one, we have the example of the Manchester Arena bombing. That was an act of terrorism. And on the other hand, there were going to be thousands of young girls around the stadium for this event.
Have you detonated some kind of nonce bomb, allowing him to molest thousands of women at once?
And he said, so, this event would almost have been a honeypot for pedophiles.
What does he think Beyonce? A honeypot
setting up the facial recognition outside a Drake concert.
Yeah.
The call's coming from on stage.